I know where you are because I've been there and I know how dark it is and I know how scared and uncertain you feel right now. And I know how much you want to run away and wish that it wasn't the case. But I will be your biggest cheerleader. I will celebrate the wins with you. I will do the happy dance with you, but I will also give you the solutions and the strategies where I can to help you be able to show up for your child, because you know your child better than any doctor, therapist, whoever. It doesn't matter. You have everything in you to help your child. And I'm just going to be the conduit to unlock it.
Welcome to the Daily Naked Parent Podcast, brought to you by Rocco Blue, the first ever brand focused on supporting parents with special needs children. Naked Parent Nation is a group of parents with special needs children who are willing to get vulnerable, strip it all down, and take a look at ourselves, our parenting, our family, and our plans to create a life beyond our wildest dreams.
On today's show, you're going to hear the story of a mom raising a special needs child, and it's going to be beautiful. So stick around. Hello, Naked Parent Nation, and welcome to today's episode of the Naked Parent Podcast. My name's Chad Ratliff, and I'm your host. Before I introduce you to our guest today, let me start by sharing a message from Naked Parent Nation. Naked Parent Nation is a worldwide community of parents and professionals raising children with all kinds of needs. We come together to share our naked truth, support our fellow parents, and inspire the inner growth that each of us needs to build the life and family of our dreams. For the parents that are struggling, we want you to know that we will love you until you can love yourself. For your children, we pray and send power from our collective group. Naked parenting is the process of moving from where you are to where you want to be. Naked parenting understands that the mind is responsible for all of our problems. As you shed the layers of your mind, you will find your true essence. As you continue to peel back the layers, you will return to the deepest truths of your own being. Through connection with one another and a belief that there is more, we expand our consciousness so that the challenges that perplex us today dissipate one by one until we're able to see and experience gratitude and beauty in everything just as it is. We have the power to create any kind of life we want for ourselves and our families. We do this by living in the naked present moment, one day at a time. If this is your first time connecting with us, I hope you feel the love that's here for you. Together we walk different paths side by side. So as we often do, we'll do a little centering exercise, breathing exercise, guided meditation. We'll see whatever flows out from me, but we like to do it because it's a time that we have for ourselves. If we don't take any other time during the day, this is a moment to connect with the sweet spot of the present moment, in that place where there are no problems, there are no financial worries, there are no difficulties that we feel incapable of handling. So if you want to gently let your eyes close and become aware of your breathing. Take a long, slow, deep breath in through your nose. And let that go so gently. Take another long, slow, deep breath in and hold it. And then gently let that go. I want you to take a long, slow, deep breath and imagine yourself in the room where you are. On your next inhale, I want you to take a long, slow, deep breath and imagine yourself floating up off the ground towards the ceiling. almost like a hot air balloon, or like when you're in water, if you hold your breath, you become buoyant and start to float. On each inhale, you're approaching the ceiling in your room. And with your next deep breath, I want you to inhale and go right through your ceiling and outside into the sky. Keep floating higher and higher. You're now looking down at your house. You can see your neighbors' homes. And higher. And higher. Feel how quiet it is up here. Feel how free your body is to do whatever you want. Remember, this is a place you can go whenever you want to fly around and check out your beautiful town, circle around your home, go visit your friend's home, and just have time to be the amazing person that you are. And on your next exhale, I want the bubble to pop, just like in the movie, and just come back into this room. And when you're ready, let your eyes come back. And here we are. I hope you had a nice flight, and I hope you had a nice moment, present moment. But today on our show, we have Nathalie. And Nathalie, you're going to have to help me pronounce your last name.
Karass.
It's Karass. Nathalie Karass. We're excited to hear your story, Nathalie. Can you tell us a little bit about you and your family makeup, and so we can get to know who we're going to hear from better?
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for having me on. And that was a beautiful meditation. Thank you. So I'm joining you from Melbourne, Australia. It is very early in the morning here, so we're just getting the light now. So my story began back in 2016. My son was almost 2 years old, and we'd gone to the maternal health nurse, which I'm not really sure if you have them in the States, but they basically just check to make sure that your child is developing the way that they should. And she noticed some red flags. She knew automatically what was going on, but obviously she couldn't diagnose. So she sent us across to the pediatrician. I remember sitting in the pediatrician in the waiting room. It took a while for us to get that appointment. So I'm now sitting with my mum, myself, my almost 2-year-old son, and my 6-week-old daughter. And I remember thinking, wow, am I going to walk through those doors and something huge is going to happen? And it was almost like I was getting a whispering, like an intuition that something was going to, just trying to prepare me for what was happening, what was going to happen. And so I walked through the doors. The pediatrician did all of her respective tests. And then she looked me straight in the eye and she said, "I'm sorry, your son has autism. Good luck getting him out of that world."
What?
And yeah. And I just remember thinking, hang on, what? What do you mean? And everything went into slow motion, just like the movies. I could see her mouth moving and I just couldn't understand what had happened. And so I went home and I grieved. I cried like he had died. And it was the most heartbreaking grief that I have ever experienced in my life. It was just, it came out of nowhere. I didn't know what autism was. I just assumed that him flapping his hands and standing on his tippy toes was just him being a boy. Like he was just a child. He was a baby. He was having fun. And so before I kicked into motion and got all my solutions intact, I went into a very dark place. I was hitting the drink way too much, just trying to numb my pain. And I distinctly remember at one point praying to God. I said to God, please bring me your biggest, strongest man so that he can come and beat the absolute crap out of me, so that I am black and blue, so that the outside resembles the inside, so that I don't have to hide anymore.
Wow.
Because it was so hard to go out into the world now. People would be like, oh, he hasn't got his words yet. I'm like, oh, he's fine. He'll get them soon. In this constant masking, which was just exhausting. And so, after a while, I could see that he wasn't progressing. I was definitely not progressing. And I was like, that's it. We've had enough. We're getting solutions. And so I am one of those people that once I set my mind to something, look out, because I will achieve it. So we went through so many different avenues to get him to where he is today. And I can safely say now that as an 8.5-year-old, he is doing magnificently. He is a growing, beautiful boy. I'm sure he eats more than I do. He loves, martial arts. He loves being able to be, with his friends. But in saying that, we tried special needs school because that's where we were told to put him into. After 2 years, he'd outgrown that. We then moved him across to mainstream. That didn't work very well. And mainstream's like where all your typical children would attend. Went to mainstream. It was too loud, too noisy, too much for him, even with the full-time carer. So now we're homeschooling. And that I have just seen so much evidence to support that works for him. That's where we're at. So, yeah, and I'm in between all of that. I basically, from pain, I decided that I was going to create purpose. So I became a certified specialist parents coach. And I now help mums of newly diagnosed autistic children overcome the overwhelm and the stress that comes along with the diagnosis.
That's beautiful. Wow.
Thank you.
It never gets old to hear the intensity of that moment. I'm so sorry that the way it was delivered to you, it's hard enough to have that moment nicely presented to you. That's just horrifying how it was presented to you. I love the journey. It really gives a feeling of hope to someone who's new on the path. I mean, you had trials and there's a light at the end of the tunnel. I hope that the listener hears that, who feels like there's no light at the end of the tunnel. Can you take us back, though, and tell us what had to happen for you to go from that place that maybe all of us parents understand to where you are now?
Yeah, so for me, I just needed to get really scrappy. I needed to get on and research and find people. So we went through a lot of biomedical doctors. Now, again, I'm not sure if you have them in the States. They basically look at doing a variety of urine samples, stool samples, basically checking what's going on in the gut to counterbalance any sort of, if there's like high heavy metals or if there's like basically just detoxing what's going on in his body. So we did that for quite some time. We did early intervention. So after he was diagnosed, we pretty much got onto speech therapy as soon as possible. And then OT joined about 6 months later. And we've been doing therapy ever since he was 2. And, beg your pardon?
No, I said that's awesome.
That's awesome. Thank you. And, because early intervention for me personally is so important. I think that having that early intervention, especially from where I stand and what I've seen with my child, it's been really helpful to be able to see what I could learn, how I could gain knowledge from the therapist and how I could utilize that at home. Because you, as a therapist, from the people that I've worked with, they've helped my child just as much as they've helped me. There've been times where I've gone in there just crying, not knowing which direction to go in, and they've been able to help me in, the uncertainty that comes up at different times, just as much as they've been able to help my child with their speech and, and their OT. So we did biomedical doctors. Like I said, we're homeschooling now, so there was lots of test and measuring around what schooling was going to work for him. It's unfortunately, I hate to say it, but the schooling system in Australia for special needs children, it is broken. It is broken in a way that if you're in that middle ground where you've got a higher IQ, but you don't do really well in mainstream, there's really nowhere else to go. And that's why we're finding homeschooling is really taking a massive leap, because parents are just saying, well, child is coming home stressed, overwhelmed, anxious, not coping. Their nervous system is literally on fire. And now we've got to try and get that back into homeostasis so that we can actually get him to learn. And that's one thing I've noticed with my son is when you take them out of fight or flight, the likelihood of them learning is really high. But it doesn't work if you're in that situation. Like the analogy I give is, could you study for an exam if you were in a nightclub, right? So much noise, so much light, so much going on. I know I couldn't. So why are we expecting our beautiful children to sit in an environment like that where it's too hard? And granted, not everyone can homeschool. I understand that. But it's just recognizing what your child needs and being able to offer that in the best way possible with the tools that you have.
Yes. I remember when I got a brain scan for my kids and they explained the brain scan and how on fire brains were, and then they explained what you just explained to us about fight or flight. And, how much would you learn if you had a cheetah, chasing after you to eat you?
Yes.
Not much. How about for you personally? How did that dark place that you were in ever change?
I want to say now, at today's present moment, I have been able to manage to put it into a box and contain it into a box. Does that box open from time to time? Yes. Like, I would be lying if I said I didn't have bad days, even as a coach, right? Because I never want to show up to my clients and be like, oh, I've got it all together. I know what I'm doing. My child is perfect. La, la, la. That's not it. I definitely have bad days. I definitely have moments where I cry. But I recognize that, okay, have the moment, give yourself the time, run yourself the bath, eat the chocolate cake, whatever you're going to do to support that grief, and then move through it, and then get back to being functional, get back to being able to really deliver for your child, for your family, for yourself.
Yes. We love keeping it real on the Naked Parent Podcast. That's where that's where the name came from. So can you tell us a little bit about how your child's autism makes him unique?
It is so unique. So I'm sure he has a photographic memory. I can't tell you this for sure, but just the actions that I have seen have shown that. For me, that personally is part of his autism. I also think that his ability to be like the Matrix and miss a wall when he is running by like an inch is like, it's like you see it in slow motion when he like just gets out of the way. I'm like, how did you do that? He's a super fast runner. He has excellent spatial awareness. And I don't think you can love another human as much as I love this child. Like, I would lay down my life if I could, if it was to better him. I would go to the ends of the earth. And I often say, don't mess with a special needs parent because their resilience is that of an army.
That's awesome. There's lots of aha moments along this journey. Any that stand out for you? For
me, when he started getting his words, and to be fair, and I want the listeners to understand, we're just getting sentences now. So we're 8.5. We're just getting functional sentences where we can sort of communicate and get an understanding of what his needs are. And so at the beginning, it was those tiny, teeny, tiny wins that I would be like, okay, just push through. Like, this is amazing. Oh my gosh, he high-fived me, or he waved, or, he even like the smallest word, right? He would just say one word. I remember just recently, we've just taught him how to brush his teeth. I don't think I've screamed as loud as I did. I'm sure the neighbours heard because I was so excited that he was able to desensitize his mouth to even get toothpaste and a toothbrush in his mouth. And like, we went through all of the stage where he was losing his baby teeth, where he wasn't brushing his teeth at all, like nothing. We weren't even able to use toothpaste. So it's those small wins that I encourage my clients to just be like, you don't compare yourself to other parents' wins, because those wins are not the same. It's the small wins. So it's the small wins that we really need to concentrate on.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. The expectations kill. They really kill, because if there was, I've said before that if there was nobody else around, well, then you would celebrate the wins that you're describing as the big wins in life, right? It's only by comparing to somebody else. But if we can focus on our own journey, then I think that's an amazing point that you bring up. Is there anything that you believe to be true that most parents disagree with? You got any controversial?
I just think that at the end of the day, as parents, we need to get ourselves right. Okay, if we are not right, like I know everyone who told me, it was always every doctor, every therapist that I spoke to, it was so focused on the child. It was so focused on the child. Not one person ever put me aside and said, how are you going? What therapies are you doing? Like, how are you taking care of yourself? Have you got a list of things that you're making sure that you want to get delivered in order to be the best parent for your child, right? And no one does that. And that's why I created my business, because I didn't want to be in a position where parents were walking out there with a stack of information for their child and nothing for them, right? This journey is just as much for the parent as it is for the child. And that is one thing I've learned all of my lessons from my son. Well, I've definitely learned lessons from my daughter, but I have learned the big lessons about me personally, because I feel like his autism was the lesson for me, right? I'm on this journey of learning from him and what I have to go through to better myself, to be a better person, versus what it looks like for him. Because he probably, in his world, I'm sure he doesn't even know that he's any different, anything else. He doesn't even recognize, oh, I'm autistic. Okay. No, he's just like, I'm living life and this is the best thing ever. And I'm playing with my trains and this day rocks. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, that's awesome. That's awesome. It's always a different feeling when I do a show where the parent is trying to get their kid to talk so that life can become a good life, or once their kid is able to do whatever it is that they feel is holding the whole family back from life being good and or whatever. And that hasn't been my experience. My experience has been what you just described, and I appreciate you bringing that up. Just to get like more of your thoughts and opinions, we do a lightning round where you give one word to short sentence answers to a few questions. Are you up for trying it?
Absolutely.
All right. What's the best advice you have received?
Definitely early intervention.
What kind of course or retreat or training would you sign up for today if it was available?
I would do something to do with professional development for me, because when we know ourselves better, then we can show up better.
I love that. Do you have a top resource or recommendation to share with other parents?
Yes. If you go to my website, I have a free guide, and the guide is called My Child Has Been Diagnosed with Autism, Now What? And it's a guide around what you can expect in terms of the emotions that may come up, a little bit of an introduction from me. And I also mention in there that I offer a free 30-minute free session for all of my new clients to just get to better know me.
Don't pass that up, listeners. What's the URL for your website?
Yeah, so it's youareseen.com.au. So that's youareseen.com.au.
Oh, that's awesome. Also, if you can email me that after the show, we'll put it in the show notes for anybody that doesn't remember it, but we do all want to be seen. What's the next thing on your list that you want to add for your individual well-being?
Definitely want to work better at meditation. I think that my mind goes far too fast sometimes, and I have too many balls up in the air, but I would like to be able to just better myself through courses and learn more around how my brain thinks. Because each of our brains, whether you're autistic or typical, your brain is unique to you and you have your own personal learning style. So I'm determined to find out how I learn, what I can do to better learn so that I can retain and intake information so much quicker.
Beautiful. What's one thing you think would improve your life if you did it or had it?
Definitely more holidays, that's for sure. It takes a long time to leave Australia, so like 4 hours and you're still within the country. More sunshine, more time with my kids, more family time, and just waiting for the summer. We're in winter at the moment and I can't wait for the warmth to come.
Nice. It sounds like your kids are lucky to have a parent like you.
Thank you.
Do you have a favorite product you use for yourself or your child or your family that you just love and couldn't live without?
Yes, absolutely. So we use Epsom salts in the bath. I usually take a bath like at least once a week just for my own mental health. My kids love the bath, and the Epsom salts that we get is from a company called Blantz. It's in Australia here, but you can find it on my website. I've got a section of the website that has my favorite things as well as my children's favorite things. And I just find it just relaxes my muscles and just sets me up.
That's awesome. YouAreSeen.com.au. Did I get that right?
You got it right.
Go to YouAreSeen.com.au. Get a lot of great information. Sign up for your free 30-minute call and get on that path that you need to be on to better yourself or get out of that funk or whatever it is. We always need to keep growing. That's at least my thought. So just from what we've talked about, or just like what's on your heart, to the parent that just got the diagnosis and doesn't think that they have what it takes to do this, what do you say to them in closing?
Yeah, I would say I know where you are because I've been there and I know how dark it is and I know how scared and uncertain you feel right now. And I know how much you want to run away and wish that it wasn't the case. But I will be your biggest cheerleader. I will celebrate the wins with you. I will do the happy dance with you, but I will also give you the solutions and the strategies where I can to help you be able to show up for your child, because you know your child better than any doctor, therapist, whoever. It doesn't matter. You have everything in you to help your child. And I'm just going to be the conduit to unlock it.
That's beautiful. Nathalie, thank you so much for being on the show, taking time out. And I hope we can stay friends and connected and share this amazing, crazy journey.
We love
that we're on. So thank you again. And to all the listeners, here's a vision for you. If life is challenging, if you're feeling sad and lonely, if you're feeling overwhelmed, Naked Parent Nation and the Naked Parent Podcast provides a framework for living that helps your life become bright, wondrous, and joy-filled. You will see how the path you've traveled can help other parents on a similar journey. No matter how dark life is today, you will be able to shed feelings of being a victim, feelings of loss, and come to accept and enjoy life exactly as it is. How you perceive life will change. You will come to understand that higher consciousness will allow you the life of your dreams and beyond. Are these promises realistic? We think they are. Parents in Naked Parent Nation are realizing these promises each and every day. The vision will become your reality if you put in the work. Through self-care, meditation, love for our families, and divine consciousness, may we all build a life beyond our wildest dreams. The biggest takeaway I want you to get today, listeners, is take an action. Take an action. You might just be sitting there and feeling stuck. Take an action. Go to youareseen.com.au and sign up for that 30-minute session. You won't regret it. And I wish you all a wonderful rest of your day. Until next time.
Thanks, Chad.
Bye.
This concludes our show for today, and I'd like to personally thank you for spending the time with us on a topic near and dear to our hearts. If you'd like to be part of the Naked Parent Nation and help us reach those parents that are struggling and overwhelmed, there's no better way to help than by subscribing, rating, and reviewing the show on iTunes. iTunes highlights the shows based on these metrics, And the more the show gets highlighted, the more opportunities people will have to be introduced to the show where they can hear that message of hope or that tip that can change everything. So follow the link in our show notes, and we hope to have you back here tomorrow where we'll do it again. From the team here at the Naked Parent Podcast, we wish you the life you've always dreamed of and then some. So long.